it's easy for us, when we're used to a perfectly functioning democracy, to complain and say, well, it was flawed in this way and flawed in that way. But it is it's the election that the Afghani people had, and as time goes on, one would hope that the Afghani people will develop the structures to have greater democracy and eliminate some of these flaws in their democratic system. But it is the government we have, and we have to work with it. It does correspond to their constitution. We cannot say that he was installed by coup. He was elected, regardless of the fact that there were flaws in the election. And I think you have to make the best of that situation and move forward. I think that the extremist elements of the Taliban will have largely been eliminated or defeated or given up. In many cases, I'm sure there are components of the Taliban who are simply fighting because they're either being paid to for the money, or because they want to see foreigners leave their country. We saw this in Iraq as well, and once it was clear that we had no intention of staying in Iraq, many of them stopped fighting. And the same could be true in Afghanistan for portions of the Taliban. Over time, as the Afghani people are able to stand up and develop their own agricultural economy, and develop a system of government that they are comfortable with, then the resources that the Taliban rely upon will be dwindling away. If we can help the Afghani people develop a strong agricultural economy that does not depend on growing poppies, then the Taliban will lose one of their sources of income, which is the income from drugs. So, they will become weaker and weaker and weaker over time. Will you ever eliminate them completely? Who knows? We haven't eliminated crime in any other Western country in the world. But you make it weak enough that you live a decent life.
But isn't there the danger that the Taliban will hide in Pakistan, and as soon as the troops are out of Afghanistan, will come back?
Well, that's why the president mentioned part of the strategy is to help the Pakistanis as well deal with their threat. Pakistan understands the nature of the threat now. They have been attacked twice. There are 2 or 3 times. They've had terrorist attacks in Peshawar, in Islamabad, and they understand the nature of the threat. So they're taking the battle to the Taliban in Pakistan. And I think it's a 2-pronged effort. We have to help the Pakistanis, both politically, economically, and in terms of their security, deal with their threat. And we have to help the Afghanis deal with the threat on their side of the border.
This kind of fight and this kind of strategy needs much money. Do you think that the American people understand that you have to put so much money on the table to fight in a very remote part of the world from the side of America?
Well, there's no question that it is expensive, and yet we understand, the American people understand, that providing our security is not cheap, and that we want to live in a secure world where we are not threatened by extremists and by the kinds of terrorist acts that brought down the World Trade Center. So we are willing to sacrifice. We know that it's not open-ended. We know, the president has said this is not something that's going to continue forever. But as of today, we simply have to make the sacrifice.
Mr. Ambassador, how much will the Americans ask internationally to support the new strategy towards Afghanistan in terms of whatever, troops, education, training, whatsoever?
Well, there's no question this has been an international engagement to date. Roughly 40% of the troops and the engagement in Afghanistan has come from sources outside the United States. Some 44 other countries have troops in Afghanistan, are providing some kind of support, including Austria. And our hope is that that support will be increased. This week, the countries within NATO are meeting to determine how they can provide additional resources. The President has also reached out to other major countries in Europe to ask them to consider additional resources. And our belief is that Europe understands the threat as much as the United States does. Indeed, Europe is closer to the threat, and it's far less remote to Europe than it is to people in the United States. Europe has also been attacked by these kinds of extremists. So I think that the threat is understood. I think the President outlined it well. And I think Europe will step up and provide additional resources. And frankly, our hope is that Austria as well will look at ways that it can support this effort.
How can Austria support that?
Well, Austria has capabilities in the past. In other engagements, Austria has provided both military and civil support. Austria has been a tremendous contributor, for example, in the Balkans, in helping the Balkans become free and democratic and peaceful states. This kind of support does not have to be military. The President has asked for a civilian surge. Europe, for example, is leading the police training effort. That's an area where Austria could contribute. There are other forms of helping to build a civil society and helping to make it function that Austria could provide training and support and assistance. I think the Austrians understand that this is an international engagement, that everyone needs to play a role, and that Austria needs to play a role as well. And it's up to Austria to decide what that role should be. I don't think it's a question of pressure. It's a question of stepping up to your international responsibilities and recognizing them, and I think Austria has that recognition.
From the American point of view, is Austria's support enough?
Well, we want all the support we can get. And I think that the more international partners we have in this effort, the better.